This particular one's here for a suspension upgrade where he's actually going to start travelling around the world in this car. So we had to raise it up, put some big tyres on it, roof rack system, just set it all up for touring.
Well, welcome to a new Dave's Workshop Tours video. And this time I'm in North Melbourne at True Track Suspension. As the name suggests, they specialise in car suspension setups, but they also have plenty of other work on the go. Let's go inside and see what they're up to. True Track itself has been in existence for just shy of 50 years. It was where owner Ralph did his apprenticeship before taking over the business a few years later in 1993. Ralph himself is still very much involved with the day-to-day running of the business, now with son Adrian at his side. Okay, Adrian, thanks very much for having us today.
No problem.
Would you like to show us around? What have you got in?
Sure. Yeah, if you come around here, this is a XW GT-HO, genuine numbered car. I believe there's only 400 listed cars. This one came in for our full undercarriage restoration, which consists of basically just stripping everything under the car and starting fresh. So, you know, everything under this car is either been restored or replaced. So it's basically brand new under there. So this customer just bought the car recently, wanted us just to go right through it and have it all brand new underneath. So it was a big job, but yeah, it's well worth it.
For the overseas audience, obviously in South Africa it's a known car and shape and what have you, but
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about the history of these particular cars and where it stands in the Australian...
Yeah, well, they're quite iconic, the Ford GTs in Australia. I think in 1971 the XY was the fastest production saloon car in the world. So yeah, and these days, you know, these cars are pulling in hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, they're an important part of the motoring culture in Australia. Everyone kind of knows them and wants to have one.
And what, the engine on this, what is that?
A 351, yeah.
Okay.
V8, of course. And as you can see behind you in the background here, we've got as you said earlier, a South African version. So again, it is a genuine South African GT, 1971. So this is the XW. So this particular one's here for a suspension upgrade where he's actually going to start travelling around the world in this car. So we had to raise it up, put some big tyres on it, roof rack system, just set it all up for touring. So he's going to be putting it on a ship and travelling overseas with it. We've actually made custom springs to raise up the vehicle. We've brought it up about 2.5 inches. Paired that along with custom Koni shock absorbers, which are all custom made, being lifted. You know, most shock absorber brands don't really list stuff for a raise. So in the front of this, we've got raised King springs with custom Koni shock absorbers, with new upper bearings, upper ball joints, all the suspension works. And in the rear, we've got, well, they're actually not even in the car at the moment. They're getting adjusted. We've got custom made leaf springs with Koni shock absorbers as well. We've also done all the diff bearings, seals and etc. So just kind of go right through sort of this stuff to make sure it's reliable for a big journey. You know, he doesn't want to be having things let down on the road. So it's important just to go around and get everything right and working well.
Great stuff. Nice one. Okay. Fastback Mustang. What have we got here?
Yeah, so this is a 1967 Mustang Fastback, the classic Fastback shape. This one recently just got dropped off. The client's had it for about, I think, 12 years, has never really spent any money on it, bought it as is out of the States. So it's basically in just for a bit of a tidy up, new suspension, a few electrical little bugs to be fixed, engine tuning, new wheels and tyres, just tidy it up a little bit and make it drive a bit nicer. Yeah, it is a well-presented car, obviously a very sought-after shape.
And tweaking that suspension, how fine are those changes that have to be made to get it just right?
Well, it all comes with experience of, you know, working on these cars for years. You know, you kind of learn to see what works well and what doesn't work with certain cars. So we've got our particular parts that we know that works well in Mustangs. This car being out of America just kind of has all junk in it. So we'll put our specific parts in this that we believe it works best in them and get it driving the best it can be. But yeah, there is a quite fine line. And it all comes with experience, I think. You know, my father Ralph gives us all advice on what works and what doesn't. So yeah, it's all an important factor.
Do you find the quality of parts that are used on imported restorations, they're not up to the standard that generally an Australian purchaser would?
It's kind of hard to say. I do think that the aftermarket scene, the quality has dropped quite a fair bit. There are a lot of companies these days that are selling cheaper products. You know, a lot of people are after budget stuff these days, so you know their quality of product does drop. But hence why we've got our certain brands, and we do a lot of stuff ourselves and custom make springs, etc. So, you know, if we can keep it in house, we do, or we use one of our trusted brands.
I think it's pretty obvious this isn't your normal everyday
No,
Mustang.
no. So this, like this one, is another fastback Mustang, a 1967. It has been built as a resto mod sort of car, so you can see, you know, it's got no door handles. All the glass in the car is trimless, so you know the front glass is kind of built into the body. Rear lights are all indented in the car. It's quite a special car.
How old is this build?
He hasn't even driven this car really on the road. It's probably have built for the last 10 years or so. Yeah, so just slowly one of those sort of, you know, tinker away at builds. So it's a special car. It's got all custom leather and interior. The leather is from Maranello, the Ferrari factory in Italy. So yeah, definitely no expense spared on this one. Yeah.
Is it a show car? Is it intended to go anywhere?
Yeah, it will be a show car. Yeah, hence why he's had such a good paint job, all custom wheels, the interior. But yeah, it presents really well. It actually has already entered a show before it came here, Motor X, where I believe it may have got an award or two. Don't hold me on that, but yeah. So this one is here for. We found when we set up the car for alignments that the rear diff was actually a little bit out of whack, so it actually did have a bent rear end. So we've removed all the rear end, pulled apart the diff, and we actually straightened it on a jig. It's a little bit of a process and shame because, you know, fresh build, and kind of happens a lot where, you know, you restore old parts on these old cars, but you never know if everything's working well or where it should be. So it's just a bit of a gamble sometimes when using old parts. But yeah, getting it all right. He just wants everything perfect. So yeah, not too far away.
Great stuff. That's it for this time on Dave's Classic Garage Tours. But make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to keep up to date with all the videos to come, like this one.